Welcome to the RJLT Economics. In today's podcast, I want to focus again on Britain. And I want to base today's podcast on the discussion that I made in episode 78, where I argued that Liz Truss was not and is not responsible for the economic disaster that Britain is experiencing. In fact, I made the claim that I think Boris Johnson is behind all of this. And in today's podcast, I want to develop this further. I want to develop today's podcast in 3 steps. First, I want to provide a little bit of background of what I said in episode 78, and I will put a link in the description below. Secondly, I want to dispute a theory that this is a quote-unquote deep state coup or regime change. I disagree with that. I want to explain why. And finally, I want to perhaps hail or perhaps what is the best word? To extol the ingeniousness or Machiavellian ingeniousness of Boris Johnson in engineering all this. Of course, provided that he actually did this, right? This is my speculation, my theory. Okay, let's start. The background. We see that in tabloids after tabloids, and indeed a lot of quote-unquote authoritative sources, people are blaming Liz Truss for all the problems that Britain is experiencing. But I must make the claim, and I explained in episode 78, that Liz Truss is but a fall guy, a scapegoat, right? Britain's economic disaster was caused by 6 elements. I try to recall them. I don't know if I can, but I listed six elements. First, that Britain is no longer the British pound is no longer a reserve currency. Second, that Britain has virtually no gold and virtually no foreign currency reserve. Third, that Britain's international stature has greatly diminished since the decline, the collapse of its empire, and with the death of their queen. And then Britain also has problem with it also has problem with the supply chain issue, that it's heavily indebted and had too much quantitative easing. And finally, there is, there are 6 points. Another point I can't really remember. But these 6 points together contributed to the situation in Britain. There is not a single person to blame. But if one person is to be blamed for the immediate problem that Britain is facing, it must be Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson is at the heart of Britain's deteriorating international stature and worsening supply chain situation. Boris Johnson is the one that worsened the situation in Eastern Europe and is causing the miseries for Brits and for the Europeans this winter and perhaps the next and the ones to come. That's the background. Secondly, I want to just dispute the fact, the theory that this is a deep state coup. Right, people, specifically it's the Duran, I heard it from them making this suggestion. Other people are not saying this. I think this is not really true. And the reason is very simple. The deep state has made sure that every possible candidate for premiership is acceptable to them. And Liz Truss is an avid supporter of the conflict in Ukraine. She's an avid supporter of Zionism. She's an avid supporter of quote-unquote Brexit, but with European characteristics. So, in a way, she is perfect In fact, when she does not have any thought of her own. She is quite incapable, but she's good at following the command. And make no mistake, this quote-unquote mini-budget fiasco is not her fault. She did not come up with this idea. Someone told her this idea, and she is just a follower of these things. So I don't think the deep state dislikes Liz Truss. I think they like her just as well as Keir Starmer, and so I don't think that this is a deep state coup. Deep state made sure that the one candidate, the one person that they cannot like, is called an anti-Semite, is called a racist, is called a misogynist, and is now not even in the parliamentary Labour Party. That is Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is the only leader in Britain that the deep state does not like. Everyone else is fine. So I don't think that the deep state is involved in this, but this is an old school conservative party backstabbing, conniving, intrigue. And Boris Johnson, I think, is neck deep, or whatever is called, neck deep, or is it nose deep, whatever, neck deep, let's say, in it. I think he probably did this because, you see, Liz Truss is someone that Boris Johnson knows does not lacks that she lacks charisma. She is a good follower of instructions. She is good at pretending to be tough and posing for cameras. So she is the perfect candidate because all he has to do is to whisper to her ears, and this will basically change her, will basically direct her in a certain way. So it would be a great idea at the point when there was strong calls for him to resign, to try to prop up Liz Truss and then feed her an idea that will be disastrous in the short term, and this will cause her to get into more trouble, and she will have to resign, and people will remember the days when Boris Johnson has been the prime minister so fondly that they would actually want him back. But at this point, having Liz Truss be the person that triggered the collapse, Boris Johnson can wash himself clean of all responsibility for the problems, economic and domestic and social, that the Brits are going to experience in the coming years. Can completely wash himself clean of these responsibilities. Every time there is a problem, he can say that that's Liz Truss. That's the fault of Liz Truss. Right. And what is also ingenious when it comes to the timing was that Boris Johnson left just a couple of weeks before the collapse. The guy, so I think this could be a coincidence. You know, I'm saying this is just a theory, and some people are okay to. I welcome criticism, right? People can say that this is really outlandish, that Boris Johnson is an honorable gentleman, is an honorable English gentleman that does never lie, does never cheat. Well, it's possible, right? It does not cheat, it does not cheat, it does not lie. Well, that's the promise of a great British gentleman that just simply commits genocide, just colonizes, let's say, barbarian societies and wipes out or cleans jungles, whatever, be a good gardeners, whatever that is. But it could be, right? Maybe Boris Johnson is really a gentleman, but in the off chance that he is not as gentle as the Brits like to pretend themselves to be, I think he is fully behind this, and this is an ingenious plot, and the Brits would not actually have had much different, to be honest, with him at the helm, with someone else, even Keir Starmer. It's all going to be the same, because just as I said in step 2, the deep state was behind this, and the course has been set to use an analogy that Garland Nixon, which is a very great commentator, by the way, made. The Britain as an economy is like Titanic, that was on a collision course with an iceberg, and under Boris Johnson they already hit that iceberg. So whether it's the captain is changed to whoever, nothing is going to change the fact that Britain has hit an iceberg, and Britain is sinking, and Britain will sink. That's never going to change. So the Brits just experienced a drama, something that could be worthy of a film, and that film, if dramatized well with some good actors, and I'm thinking, I don't actually know which actor could be the best for these roles, but maybe I'll come up with some ideas later. They could win Oscars, provided that Oscar will no longer be run by the deep state. Anyway, thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe and like if you find this interesting, and follow me on Twitter and Telegram, and also I made a own quote-unquote free speech or is free to use platform, just like Twitter. So I leave all the links down below, as well as a link to episode 78. Thank you very much, and have a great day.